The episode begins 3 years ago on an island where a group of Marines observe multiple explosions in the distance. They want to join the battle, but soon realize that their weapons were useless against those creatures. This was a job exclusively for the hunters. The scene shifts to a man desperately running through a forest, being pursued by a giant ant. However, several hunters were already prepared for combat. As the ant approached, a fierce battle ensued. The battlefield was consumed by a relentless and intense confrontation. Among the group of hunters, there were all kinds of warriors, swordsmen, tanks, and powerful mages. But despite their strength, they were being easily slaughtered by the ants. In the midst of the fight, one of the hunters, overwhelmed by fear, saw his life flash before his eyes. Their level was far too low to face creatures of that magnitude. The ants were massacring everything in their path, until a hunter appeared who, without hesitation, crushed the head of one with a devastating blow. He opened a book and cast a healing spell, completely regenerating one of the injured hunters in seconds. It was clear that these hunters were on a completely different level. Another hunter unleashed a powerful electric blast against the monsters, while another charged forward with brute force. Just these 3 warriors were enough to take on all those creatures alone. They were S-rank hunters, the most powerful of all. The battle, which had seemed impossible, was now under control. But just when the hunters thought the worst was over, a colossal ant emerged. However, they believed it was not the dungeon's boss, just a leader of the swarm. The hunter Byong-Gigu took responsibility for the wounded, while the other 2 charged into battle. The brute force warrior and the lightning master attacked without hesitation. The monster had no chance. Its own stinger was ripped off and driven into it like a deadly projectile. Even so, new ant leaders appeared, increasing the difficulty of the battle. The hunters, realizing the challenge, pushed their power to the maximum. Meanwhile, in the city, another group of hunters was facing a new wave of ants. A high-level warrior unleashed powerful flames against the enemies, but the larger creatures were approaching, making the battle even more intense. More than a decade ago, portals began appearing, connecting the world to a dimension filled with magical monsters immune to conventional weapons. Some humans awakened special abilities to fight them and were ranked accordingly, with S rank being the highest. However, once a person's level was determined, it could never be changed. 3 years later, the city seemed peaceful. In a discreet location, a group of hunters were preparing to enter one of these portals. Dungeons were places filled with monsters and valuable rewards. Many hunters sold the items they collected to the government in exchange for money, making it a lucrative profession. Among the hunters was Jin-Woo, our protagonist. Everyone knew him, and even asked if he had eaten well before entering. At first glance, he seemed like a respected hunter, but in reality, he was the weakest of them all, participating in low-level dungeons. He got injured so often that he frequently required hospitalization. He was the weakest hunter in humanity. A girl approached him, concerned, as he always ended up seriously wounded. There had even been times when he nearly died because of it. The team leader gathered everyone before the incursion to give instructions, and then the passage was opened. One of the hunters recommended that Sung stay behind to avoid getting hurt, not wanting to enter unarmed. He bought a simple knife, almost devoid of magical power, but better than nothing. Meanwhile, the government was holding a meeting to discuss the resources extracted from the dungeons. Essence stones, obtained by defeating monsters, were highly valuable. For hunters, they were used to enhance their equipment, but the government saw them as a potential source of energy superior to nuclear, hydro, and wind power, clean and inexhaustible. Inside the dungeon, the hunters eliminated all the monsters without much difficulty. Even though Sung was weak, he managed to collect his first essence stone. However, one of the hunters noticed a hidden passage inside the dungeon. They suspected it was a double dungeon, a rare but possible phenomenon. Faced with the discovery, they needed to report to the Hunters Association, but doing so would mean losing the spoils to another team. To avoid this, they decided to vote on whether to enter or not. The vote ended in a tie, leaving the final decision to Sung. He thought about his family, his missing father, his sick mother, and his sister in school, and decided he needed the money. He voted in favor of entering. Outside the dungeon, the Hunters Association was organizing the rankings of awakened warriors. The higher the level, the more in demand the hunter became. In the middle of the city, 2 thieves attempted to escape on a motorcycle after stealing a bag, but they were quickly stopped by a powerful woman, Chaein, an S-rank hunter. Without effort, she retrieved the bag and disappeared into the city with agile movements. Inside the double dungeon, Sung's group advanced for 40 minutes without finding anything. During the walk, the girl accompanying him complained that he had voted to enter, unnecessarily put himself at risk. He always needed healers to survive, and she seemed to have a certain fondness for him, suggesting that he take her out for a meal as thanks. Suddenly, the group arrived at a massive stone door. It was clear that something imposing lay behind it. Even so, no one wanted to leave empty-handed. One of the hunters decided to open the door. Meanwhile, the government was celebrating newly awakened hunters, emphasizing that being a hunter meant risking one's own life. Inside the new dungeon chamber, torches lit up automatically, revealing multiple ancient statues. At the center stood a colossal statue that emanated an eerie presence. On the floor, a magic circle and ancient inscriptions displayed religious commandments. Worship God, praise God, and prove your faith to God. A female hunter noticed something strange. She swore the giant statue moved its eyes, but perhaps it was just an illusion. However, the moment the group leader finished reading the inscriptions, the dungeon door slammed shut, trapping everyone inside. One of the hunters rushed to try and open the door, but the instant he touched it, a statue moved and, with a single axe strike, decapitated him. He was one of the strongest in the group, and his instant death threw everyone into a panic. For the first time, Jin-Woo felt genuine fear. When he looked at the giant statue, he was horrified to realize that it was looking back at him. He had faced countless life or death situations, but nothing compared to this. In desperation, he ordered everyone to drop to the ground. Moments later, the statue unleashed a deadly beam that exterminated several hunters. The massacre had begun, and one by one, they were being eliminated. Sung knew that, at that moment, no one would make it out alive. The second episode begins with everyone terrified in front of the statue. The danger is imminent, and at any moment, anyone could die in this hide. Two members of the group have already lost their lives, and if anyone moves, the statue will attack. Jay had already lost hope, but narrowly escaped. If Sung hadn't deciphered Hyde's mechanics, no one would have survived. He noticed something that no one else did. Mr. Song suffered a devastating attack and lost an arm. Sung acted quickly to stop the bleeding, and Jay could help with her healing magic. But she was so terrified that she couldn't move. Based on Mr. Sung's experience in raids, he believes the statue is at least rank A or possibly even rank S. At the center of the temple, there's an imposing statue, and behind it, the commandments of the place are inscribed. Worship God, praise God, and prove your faith. Sung deduces that this God refers to the statue itself. 10 years ago, portals appeared, connecting the real world to an alternate dimension. The magical power from these portals spread, and some people acquired special abilities to hunt the creatures that emerged from them. These people were called hunters. However, once awakened, a hunter could never evolve. Their rank remained the same forever. The scene shifts to a classroom where Sung's sister is studying. She is in college and knows that her brother works as a hunter, even though he is only rank E. He is constantly injured, known as the world's weakest hunter. Her friend believes she too could become a hunter to fight and earn money. Back in Hyde, the hunters are still searching for a way out. One of them tries to escape using his ability to jump toward the door, but the moment he propels himself, the statue instantly reacts and fires a lethal attack, vaporizing him in midair. All that remains are his shoes. Panic spreads. If even one of the strongest hunters was eliminated so easily, then no one is safe. Sung starts analyzing the statue's behavior and realizes that it only attacks when they move. He asks Song about the temple's commandments and identifies a pattern. The first is worship God. He understands that this dungeon has a specific mechanic and decides to test his theory. Walking toward the statue, the creature begins to charge an attack, but the moment Sung bows before it, the attack stops. He confirms his theory. As long as everyone is revering the statue, it will not attack. Immediately, he orders everyone to kneel. When they obey, the statue displays a sinister smile, radiating an overwhelming pressure. The tension rises. One of the hunters, realizing that the statue is no longer attacking, stands up, believing they are safe. But the statue enters its second phase. It stands up and begins to move, ready to crush them all. Sung deduces that the next commandment to follow is praise God. One of the hunters approaches the statue and starts praying, but he is praying to the wrong deity. The result? The statue smiles again and, without hesitation, stomps on him, killing him instantly. Another hunter freezes in shock and is crushed right after. Chaos takes over the group, which disperses in an attempt to evade the statue. However, one of the hunters, who had a family waiting for him outside, is cruelly torn in half by the creature. Meanwhile, Sung continues trying to decipher the second commandment's secret, but he also needs to protect Jui. He notices something strange. Some of the smaller statues are holding musical instruments. He shouts for everyone to run toward these statues. When someone approaches them, they begin to play music. Each hunter runs to a different statue. Sung and Jui also take shelter under one, but the mechanic doesn't allow two people to activate the same statue. With no choice, he leaves Jui there and runs to another. The giant statues start pursuing him, and in desperation, he approaches the shield statue, which brutally attacks him, tearing off one of his legs. Even so, Sung does not give up. He crawls toward the nearest instrument statue, and at the last moment, before being crushed, he manages to activate it. The smaller statues start playing and singing, revealing the true meaning of the second commandment. Praise God. The giant statue returns to its initial position, but there is still one last commandment left. Jui uses her magic to stop Sung's bleeding, but she is exhausted. Escaping Hyde remains impossible, and Sung knows the final trial is yet to come. Suddenly, the statue summons a sacrificial altar. Sung immediately understands what must be done. Someone has to be sacrificed. Some group members try to offer some, but the final decision falls to the raid leader. He accepts the sacrifice for the sake of the team. As he approaches the altar, a torch ignites. However, something still seems wrong. Sung then asks for help approaching the altar, and two hunters assist him. When they step into the circle, more torches light up, one for each person inside the ritual area. He realizes that 7 days have passed since the raid was opened. If the dungeon boss is not defeated, the monsters may invade the real world. If the statue escapes, it could bring about the world's destruction. Meanwhile, his sister visits their mother in the hospital. Their mother's condition is delicate, which is why Sung works as a hunter, risking his life to support them. Back in Hyde, Sung asks everyone to enter the circle. 6 torches light up, and then a blue flame emerges, opening the exit door. However, the statues begin moving toward them. It's the third phase of the battle. Sung notices a hidden mechanic. The statues only advance when no one is looking, like a red light, green light game. Panic spreads. A huntress, in desperation, runs out of Hyde and escapes, but the door begins to close. Sung realizes that the exit is not so simple. The fewer people remain, the harder it will be to keep the statues at bay. Another hunter flees, and the door closes even more. The raid leader, overcome with fear, admits that he doesn't want to die because he has a family to return to. He abandons the group as well. Now, keeping the statues under control is impossible. In the end, Mr. Song sacrifices himself to save the others. But Sung cannot move toward the exit, and Jui has no strength to walk either. He makes a decision. He will stay behind. He hands his only magic stone to Jui, so she can buy something to eat, reminding her of the promise he made to take her to dinner. But now, he knows he won't be able to keep that promise. Everyone flees, leaving Sung behind. He is the only one left. Determined to fight to the end, he picks up Mr. Song's sword and promises to take at least one statue with him. But the statues attack him mercilessly. With each strike, he loses parts of his body. He is massacred. At the last moment, just as he is about to die, a panel appears before him. The courage of the weak has been recognized. You have been invited to become a player. The third episode begins with Sung waking up in a hospital after experiencing something inexplicable inside the hide. He wakes up startled, and mysteriously his arm and leg are intact, as if they were never injured. No aftereffects from the hide remain on his body, making it seem like everything was just a dream. Shortly after, 2 men enter the hospital room. They are administrators from the Hunter Association, who have come to interrogate Sung about the bizarre events that took place in the hide. The incident left everyone intrigued, especially because Sung had been unconscious for 3 days. The other survivors suffered severe consequences. Song lost an arm and will have to retire, while Jae went into shock and will never be able to enter a hide again. Sung still remembers a massacre he witnessed inside, and the few who managed to escape alive. Only 6 survived that raid. Being a hunter is extremely dangerous. Yet somehow, Sung managed to come out alive. When his team was rescued, there was no trace of the statues left. Everything had simply vanished, raising suspicions about the survivor's story. The group was almost accused of murder. The administrators suspect that Sung may have undergone a double awakening, a rare phenomenon in which a hunter, even after their initial awakening, gains a new power that allows them to rise to rank A or even rank S. To confirm this, they brought a mana gauge and tested Sung again. However, the result was disappointing. His mana was only 10. Everything indicated that he had not awakened a second time. As they left, The administrators concluded that Sung was still weak and nothing more than a civilian with no real abilities. Since the dungeon had disappeared, there was no way to investigate again. The real mystery remained. How did Sung survive? He had been hopeful about the possibility of a double awakening, but it turned out to be a mistake. However, something was still unusual. The administrators did not mention the panel that Sung saw in front of him. This meant that only he could see it. The panel seemed real but was intangible, and Sung didn't know how to open the message displayed. The text stated that his courage had been recognized and that he was now a player, but everything about it was still a great mystery. At that moment, his younger sister, Jaina, arrived at the hospital to visit him. She was worried, but Sung felt relieved to be alive. Jaina didn't want him to return to being a hunter. Curious, Sung asked if she could see the panel, but she saw nothing. Worried, she thought her brother might have gone insane and was hallucinating. Unintentionally, Sung activated the panel using a voice command. He finally understood that this system was designed to assist him in developing as a player. However, he discovered that if he didn't complete the missions given by the system, he would be penalized. On the other hand, if he completed the challenges, he would receive rewards. His first daily mission was a physical workout: push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and running. At first, Sung believed he was just delirious. Since he had just woken up from a coma, he decided to ignore it and rest. Meanwhile, the association administrators concluded that Sung had not awakened again, but there were still many doubts about what had really happened. They categorized the case as an unsolved event for now. Later, one of the administrators summoned one of the most powerful hunters to be an instructor in a rank B raid. She had never trained rookies before, but she would do her best to strengthen the hunters and improve their combat skills. At that exact moment, a portal suddenly appeared in the middle of the city. Only hunters could close it. In the hospital, Sung received a penalty for not completing his daily mission. His entire room trembled, and suddenly, he was transported to a different dimension. He found himself in a vast desert, where a giant centipede was chasing him. His only mission was to survive for 4 hours. Meanwhile, the nurses noticed his disappearance. Sung, on the other hand, was running desperately to escape the monster. After much suffering, he managed to survive, and at the end of the 4 hours, he returned to the hospital. As a reward, he received some enhancements. The next day, Sung recovered rapidly, far beyond normal. Jory received a new summons for another hide, but was still haunted by the trauma of her previous experience. Even so, she visited Sung at the hospital, where he continued completing his daily missions, improving his strength and endurance. Upon completing his tasks, Sung received 3 rewards: instant recovery, status points to increase attributes like strength and agility, and a mysterious box. When he opened the box, he found a special key that allowed him to access a secret dungeon. Sung believed that this dungeon would be essential for him to become stronger. Meanwhile, the city entered an evacuation state. Due to the rank B portal, Sung took the opportunity to visit his sick mother in the hospital. He had become a hunter to earn money and try to save her, but his weakness had always prevented him from achieving anything significant. Now, with his new system, he finally felt that he could change his fate. Determined, Sung went to the entrance of the secret dungeon and used the key he had received. As soon as he entered, the portal closed behind him. He realized that this hide was different from the usual ones. To escape, he had to complete the challenge or find a teleportation stone. Soon, the first enemies appeared: goblins. Sung had almost died to a goblin before, but now he noticed that his reflexes were faster and his strength had increased. He defeated 3 goblins, but then a jackal appeared, a giant wolf that broke his dagger. The monster was much stronger, and Sung felt fear, but he had no choice. He had to fight. The episode ended with the creature lunging at him. This was an incredible episode. If you're enjoying solo leveling here on the channel, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. See you next time.